So Katrina is a personal friend of mine, and we are actually co-authoring in a book that comes out May 25th called From the Shadow to the Light. Katrina specifically works with a lot of brain health, and she actually teaches you how to use your shopping cart at a regular grocery store and how to put those proper nutrients into your body to actually help with some of the illnesses and disabilities that are out there. And I'm not sure she's going to share, but her specifically, she's actually off a lot of her medications, even for epilepsy, because of the nutrients that she's actually buying and putting into her shopping cart today. And her business is called Brain Health, right? Did I say it right?
So it's Neurological Nutrition is the name of the business.
Okay.
And then the website is healthybrain.ca.
That's why, okay. So I am really grateful to have Katrina here. She is a wealth of knowledge. Katrina actually is on the board of directors for the Voices of Albertans with Disabilities. But what I even love most about her, she is out there everywhere. And she actually works and speaks with a lot of people at the provincial, the municipal, and the federal government with regards to disabilities. So she is a complete asset to have here to speak about the hidden supports for caregivers that we truly don't know about. And when we spoke before this, I actually learned about a lot of things that I had no idea, even in being in my position. So welcome, Katrina.
Hello, guys. So as you heard there from Lisa, I deal with neurological nutrition, but today I'm going to focus on some of our support systems that are in place when we're dealing as a caregiver, and some of the things that a lot of us are not even aware that is available. And many of the things that I'm talking about, don't feel like you need to, write like crazy to take all the stuff down, because if you need contacts of different stuff, I can send it in and you can get the links along with that as well. So I'm just going to start with when you are dealing as a caregiver, and a little bit about me. I've been a caregiver most of my life. In my life journey, my parents, when I grew up, were married and divorced 4 times each, where I was caring for intoxicated and abusive parents, as well as looking after my siblings. And then later in life, grew up and went into the nursing world, and also cared for people in geriatric and palliative care, as well as different areas of my life for not only friends and family members as well. In our systems of dealing with the stress that we all feel when we are caregivers, it's about finding the assistance we need, because many of us, myself included, don't want assistance because we can handle it all. And in the nursing world, where time was happening where you were working 16, 18-hour days all the time, it was like, no, I can handle this, no problem. I'll just continue to go and go and go. And along with working crazy hours, and also looking at what we're doing in the community with all our volunteer work and family and all different things, we have busy lives. And those busy lives, when we also become a caregiver and put the caregiver hat on, it becomes not only where eventually we have to get to a point where we say, hey, I can't do everything myself. I need to do some assistance in some of the ways to delegate a few things. And as well, you can get very easily drained, not only in your time, but also your finances. So we need assistance not only from our federal government, our provincial government, and a municipal government. And before I start, I will apologize right off the bat, because the stuff going on right now with the federal government is all going to be changing and becoming something completely different within the next week. So I will give some information of what I can until I know more details of how that is changing, the same as all of you as you're watching it on the news. And so when I look at when we're dealing with federal government and provincial government, as well as municipal, we want to be able to blend all of those services for the best way possible to help our particular person that we're caring for. So we also want, outside of the government, the federal government, municipal government, as well as provincial government, we also want community services. We also want ability to tap into nonprofit organizations, even in your community of your neighborhood, you know, what's happening just around the neighborhood. Normally, we can just go outside and I could tell you all the great places to go and get some assistance. But while we're also down on lockdown and isolation, things are a little bit different. So now I will also pass on more information on the internet versus, you know, jump in your car and go somewhere. So with federal government assistance, many of us feel that we do need that because you're feeling stuck many times as a caregiver in that sandwich generation where you're still looking after your own kids, but then looking after your parents, or otherwise you might even just be dealing with a special needs child, but at the same time dealing with other children as well, and you're just being pulled in many different directions. And sometimes in the process of that, we have different additional expenses that we need to come across that we sometimes don't have the funds for and need a financial boost, as well as, yeah.
Some of our participants can't see the full screen on there. So I'm not sure if it's because of how they have their gallery. So there is a gallery setting that they can actually minimize so they don't see everybody, so that you can see. I'm just trying to figure out what's happening here so that I can try to help assist them, because I'm trying to determine what's going on. I'm trying to give up control of your screen and it's not letting me. So
okay, so I can only see my full screen of those pictures.
Okay.
So I don't see any of you or information on any of you. I just see my full screen.
So you may be able to look under view options, which is usually at the top, and you can make it a full screen if you like. Participants, that might be able to be helpful for you, because on my screen I can see the whole thing as well. So this is why I think it might be, or the top right, it shows a different gallery option, so you can see everybody that's on there and it can look a number of different ways. Hopefully that's helpful. If it's not, please let me know and I will check the messages again. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Katrina, but I want to make sure that everybody sees what they need to.
Yeah, no problem. So as I was saying, sometimes we feel that we're stuck in this busyness of everything, needing a financial boost, but also feeling that we need an extra set of hands because we need to break away from juggling all of the responsibilities. And sometimes we need some assistance on that. And it's hard to sometimes delegate that or feel that we shouldn't need to take that responsibility. But if we don't, the weight of all that stress on us can then trigger some burnout for us, not only emotionally and physically, but also impact us towards our health systems as well. And eventually we get to the point where not only do we have that burnout, but we got to the point where we're all calling out and just saying help, because the impacts will happen to yourself as well as the person you're caring for. So in the government, of the federal government, we have caregiving assistance programs. We have multiple programs for you to tap into if you are caregiving for somebody where you were employed or at work and you now are needing to leave work because of those assistance that you need to step into. For example, there are 3 different kinds, whether you are a family caregiver because you have a special needs child under the age of 18 that is either critically ill or injured in some way where you need to be there with them. The unemployment insurance has a program for you to take 35 weeks of benefit where they will pay you $573 per week to stay home with your critically ill or injured parent, with injured child, to help with those situations. On top of that, unemployment insurance through our federal government also offers a family caregiver benefit program for adults. And that is if you yourself as an adult are caring for your spouse who's an adult, or also an adult, a family member that may be a sibling of yours or one of your parents. And in those situations, you may need to leave your work environment to be dealing with that caregiving role. And then you are entitled to get assistance for 15 weeks with $573 per week of that caregiver benefit when you are stepping into that role. We also have an additional area of unemployment insurance. If you've been working and now you have compassionate care benefit, which is where you have 26 weeks for you to take off of work with the $573 per week benefit federally to you. And that is for any age relative that you are looking after in the end of life care. And in all of those three areas, I have put the website links on here with the specific options as well as how to access them on that screen. Government caregiving assistance programs are also available if you were not employed and therefore not entitled to unemployment insurance. Now, as you have heard on the news recently, our unemployment insurance is going to be drastically changing due to all of the stuff that's going on right now. So this is information that was available prior to that, because our whole federal government is going to be caring for people that are sick because of the virus.
Bless you.
But prior to just caring for people with this virus that's going across Canada, we also had government caregiving assistance programs if you did not have employment benefits as an employee. Then there was the Canada Caregiver Credit Program. And this was for you to stay at home because you were supporting a spouse or common law partner or a dependent physical or mentally impaired member of your family. And that the Canada Caregiver Credit is a non-refundable tax credit that may then be available to you. Now, this is not a program that gives you monthly or weekly pay. What it does is it gives you discounts on your income tax. But there are other assistance as well. But from the federal government, that was the assistance there. Not only for the amount of those two added areas, which has all that together. Next, as a caregiver, there is numerous educational resources and support available to you. So I have put a variety of different options on here for you to tap into free courses and programs that are available for you as caregivers. And there is a wide variety there listed. And as you open up each of them, you will see amazing benefits for you.
Can Samsung Galaxy S7 please mute? As we can hear your conversation in the background or whatever that background noise is, as well as Carrie, I was just thinking if you go to the gallery with all your pictures, you should have a little option to minimize all the people that are there or list them. That may help you to actually see the slides better, if that is helpful. Sorry again, I apologize, Katrina.
Not a problem, dear. So as a caregiver, you are also entitled to claim any educational courses that you go on to aid yourself with the skills of doing the assistance that you need. There are also many courses available online that you can take at a couple hours at a time that are free to you. But if you find that you do wish to or need to take a course where you would actually have to pay for those services of that education, that is also available for you to claim. And the information I have available as well. We also have programs not only in the province of Alberta, but also across Canada that has all different caregiving options for you, as well as caregiver blogs and many not only federal courses, but also international courses that you can take from all over the world to give you an extra tool to add into your toolbox when you're caring for people. The Alberta Supports Contact Center is a wonderful option as well for you to tap in and look at the specifics of whatever issue you need. You type that in and it basically gives you a list of where to find and how to contact them. You can also do that online through their website, or you can call them. If you do not have access to the internet or need to speak to somebody to do that, that's also available as well. And the government of Alberta will continue to provide services to you through that. The Caregivers Alberta is also offering lots of different courses and benefits for you, as you are aware, by participating here. And also the Voices of Alberta with Disabilities is a association as well that has a whole wide variety of resources to you, and also is a link for all of the nonprofits that are linked together to support you when you're dealing with any level of caregiving or need of services through the nonprofit world, and how to link that. On top of that, many of us, when we are trying to fill out forms or need to apply for different things, are getting frustrated the same way you would if I told you to fill out your income tax for this great big company of Walmart or something, and you look at the income tax forms and you become overwhelmed. Well, many times as caregivers, when we're filling out these government forms or trying to, we become either frustrated to the point where we need some assistance. And the Voices of Albertans with Disabilities also has counselors there to help you fill out the forms, not only the provincial forms, the federal forms, so that you can get the assistance that you need for the specific care areas that you're dealing with as well. Transportation assistance for caregivers. If you are dealing with any of the people that you are caring for that have permanent mobility impairment and cannot safely use public transport, or they have needs where they have to be with you in the process of that, there is a program for you as the caregiver to be able to claim all of your gasoline and transportational expenses for transporting them to and from meetings, or also throughout the year while you are driving them around. The gas receipts can be claimed for that if you are not only the caregiver, but also the means of transportation for that person. With transportation, not only do we have those forms there available that you can fill out, or also come in for assistance to have that done for you. Transportation Alberta also has numerous toolkit that I've put on there for you. And when you go on to these toolkits, it has amazing ways for you to get free transportation. Yes, I said free transportation. So that is if you need bus tickets, if you need to take a taxi to different things that you need to do. There is a whole toolkit of all areas in all communities across Alberta, whether you are rural, whether you are out in the country or in downtown, it doesn't matter. These programs are available to you as well from the whole province for transportation. Another area for transportation is through the Easter Seals. They also have assistance to aid in transportation as well. If you need any modifications or things for dealing with transportation, they also have some assistance there as well. And if for some reason you are in a small town area in Alberta and you need to come to one of the larger towns of Calgary and Edmonton, or maybe even Vancouver or Calgary for a medical appointment, or and you are not able to afford that transportation of a long distance, not only for driving reasons, because maybe you yourself are not able to drive as the caregiver, or that you need to fly but don't have the financial means to get a ticket to do so. There is also programs available through the Angels Flight Alberta.ca, which is volunteer pilots that will then transport you from your local community via smaller planes to the specific area you need to go to for your medical appointments. And this is especially beneficial for those people that are living in the far north that need to come into Edmonton. many times there isn't a flight coming for some large aircraft to come and pick them up. This is a means for them to be able to tap into that as transportation as well. There's also our Donate a Ride program in Alberta, which is everything from the free bus tickets to when people call into Alberta Transport, and through our bus services for the Edmonton Transportation Department to volunteer and donate rides or tickets for people who cannot afford those tickets. And there is a whole list of organizations and nonprofits that you can then go to be able to get many tickets for yourself if you need tickets, or if you need other assistance for that different rides, whether you are going on the regular city buses or whether you're going on the DAT services. Those are also available for you. And I'm not sure if this will allow me to just sort of go into some of these, for example. Yeah, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. No, it won't, so I'll have to do that another time, but I would show you some of those, for example, as well. Low-income family resources. Many times when you're dealing with a disability situation or a caregiver association where you are caring for family members, many times those needs within the family, because you have stayed home with your loved one, you've used up that unemployment benefits or even any additional benefits, and now you are living home with them basically on a welfare assistance or very limited financial assistance. But when many times people are in these situations, they are not aware of all of the different options that are available to them within their community. And there are many areas to support and uplift your family, not only with the bare necessities, but also emotional and support for the kids to really enjoy life in all areas. And this is for activities where you can go out and participate with activities, to be able to be participating in all kinds of activities, from hockey to extracurricular activities, swimming programs, all different recreational facilities throughout the province that also participate, so that you will not then have to pay the fees. You would have a card that is then donated to you to participate. And there's a whole wide variety of that, as well as school supplies assistance, clothing. If you need clothing, there's a whole wide variety of that, and pet supplies, food, meals, as well as a whole lot of fun. And when you're thinking of different assistance that as a caregiver you would need, there are a wide variety of things that are needed that many times you feel you don't have necessarily the funds for that. And that could be a whole wide variety of areas for the expenses that come up that are not necessarily about house bills, and even assistance in those areas. And these websites here, each of them have a list of a variety of all different programs that are available to you if you are on low income, and you can access all of these areas, and each of them would be available for you to access that benefit. Now, not only in the federal government, which were the ones that I was just talking to you about, but we also have many programs within our provincial governments that also assist us as well. It's not just the local bus service, but with financial assistance for people with disabilities. We have our AISH program, the Assured Income for the Severe Handicap. And with our AISH program, this is for Albertans with permanent medical conditions that prevent them from earning a living. And within that AISH program, many times people say to me, well, you know, I have AISH, but it doesn't really do anything for me. Well, a lot of people don't understand that when you are on AISH, there are many different benefits, not only through the financial program that you get, but also many other areas within the AISH system that you are also entitled to. So for example, with AISH, you have living allowance with a check or a deposit that is made to you. There's child benefits if you have to care for a child where you also have disabilities. All health benefits, there's a whole variety of health benefits that are entitled to you. Also because not only the Alberta healthcare program for the Blue Cross, but other additional benefits for you that would not be covered under that would also be covered on AISH as well. There's personal benefits, things that are for yourself that would not necessarily be health related, or a health choice that you decided to do that was not necessarily covered by the regular health programs. So maybe you wanted to go and get some type of a treatment done to yourself, or go to see someone who wasn't covered under the regular assistance for different medical benefits, then that would be allowed there. And this is for anything that is not covered in those other options. So all of that is services that you wished to tap into as a person who was living with severe handicap situations, or you are a parent or a caregiver of someone who has those needs, then this would be available to you. Also, on top of that, we have the Alberta Aids to Daily Living program, which is different from the AISH program. The Alberta Aids to Daily Living program helps Albertans with long-term disability, chronic terminal illness to pay for basic medical equipment and supplies. Now you'll see the difference between these two is that the AISH is for services for you, and the Alberta Aids to Daily Living is for tangible things that you need. So if you need a walker, it's not the service. The service would be to have that occupational therapist measure you for the right kind. That would be under your AISH. But the actual cost of the walker itself would be the Alberta Aids to Daily Living. For the services. So for example, that would be your walker, wheelchair, beds if you need any specific type of bed, hearing aids, incontinent products, bathing, and toiling aids. If you need to adjust those, then that would also all fall under those areas. And then I've also put a variety of the websites there that will also give you some of those lists of those benefits that are available. And there is an enormous list of benefits with both of those programs that are there.
So Katrina, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I know we have some caregivers that, hi Medic, I was wondering if you can mute yourself, please. Thank you. We have some caregivers that have a spouses or a partner that's in rehab hospital right now, and they're trying to determine what would the requirements be, and they're going to need to possibly do a lot of renovations to their house.
Yep, and I'm getting to that.
Okay, perfect. So I'm too quick.
Yep, no problem. I will be covering all of that, don't worry.
Okay.
So the next thing is to look at Alberta's assistance for seniors. So if the person you are specifically caring for is a senior, then the seniors benefits are a little bit different than those if they were just someone my age or younger that was needing to have assistance. Then the Alberta Seniors Benefit provides low income for seniors for their actual living expenses. Now that is for if they were living on their own. Katrina, as her 80-year-old living alone in her house, that would be for her. Okay, now there's also supplementary accommodation benefit, which is added to provide low-income supports for seniors who reside in or supportive living programs or long-term care where they're not in their own home. The government already does support those facilities. But on top of the government support that those facilities are already receiving, then they would need a top up between either their pension or what they would normally be having because the cost is much higher. And for those of us that have been dealing with this over the last number of years in geriatrics and palliative care, you have seen those prices basically skyrocket from where they were, you know, just even less than 10 years ago, it was, you know, $1,200 to $1,500 a month. Now in many places it's $4,000 a month, and that's a very big difference. And so these types of things would be there to offset that, especially if people were having pensions that they transferred over onto this, because many times those pensions were a fixed income amount. So for example, if you had a $700 to $800 a month pension, but your room is for $4,000 a month, well, that's not going to be covering that. So these are the types of things that would then also be there to offset some of that, that the government would come in to offset, and as well as family opportunities. There's also special needs assistance for seniors that provides funding towards cost of appliances, health and personal supports. These are specifically for benefits for you when you need something that you could not afford. And this could be anything from, you know, your fridge breaks down and you can't get a new one, or this would be appliances from that you need for your health because you need something that helps with your sleep apnea or what have you. These are a variety of different things that are there for you. There is also options for dental and optical assistance, because maybe you need a new pair of glasses, or you need new false teeth because it just fell on the floor and broke at the facility that you are dealing with. And then they're like $4,000 for the 2 sets of teeth there, but many times you don't have those types of funds. So then this is also available for the dental or optical assistance for people living in these care situations as seniors. And the same with health, additional health benefits for seniors. And then those links are there with a whole variety of options for you. Edmonton support services are available also for seniors for those of us that live in the Edmonton area. Edmonton also offers referral services for financial resources, housing options, recreational opportunities, and all kinds of community resources specifically for seniors. So we not only have the 211 phone line where you can call in, there's also a website for you to go on to for our 211 programs, not only for just seniors, but also the Mental Health Association and around supporting the seniors, so that seniors are not only having programs, but they are also finding that they are needing emotional support rather than just sitting home alone staring out of a window the way sometimes we all feel right now.
And Caregivers Alberta can be found on 211 as well.
Wonderful. And so then we also have Reach Edmonton with the initiatives there that is in place for 24-hour crisis. So if you are dealing with a 211 but you don't want to just call to find out, you know, what's available, you need something right now. You don't want to sign up for a program that's going to take place through Caregivers Alberta 2 weeks from now. You have an emergency crisis right now. Your senior is outside in the snow right now. You need assistance now. And so this is also available for any 24-hour crisis area. And this can be also involved with the seniors' abusive situations, as well as a crisis from being dealing with everything from losing homes or what have you. Then we also have the SAGE phone book, which is a whole wide variety of options for us. And in that SAGE program, there is a wide variety of programs all over the area, but many times there's a lot of material in there that sometimes you don't have time to just sort of look through. And if there are situations where you need housing options and support right now, then there is the Seniors Safe House program and intake for immediate need. And that's also available on there as well. The other link that I've put on this screen is for the Seniors Network through Covenant Health. And that has a whole inventory of resources and supports for all areas of dealing with seniors and seniors care and dementia, not only for the person you're caring for, but for you also as the person going through this. Because many times, although the person has all these different options and stresses that they're going through, you are also, as the caregiver, going through enormous stresses yourself, and the supports are there for you along this journey. Federal government assistance, we have many other areas in our federal government assistance as caregivers. There is special needs. When you have a family member that has any level of special needs, whether that is as a child or a senior, there is a whole wide variety of federal government assistance for all areas in that area, as well as home repairs and adaptations. If all of a sudden I became paralyzed and needed a wheelchair tomorrow, I would definitely need some assistance getting in and out of my house because there's stairs on both ends of it, as well as other options in my home. So then there are home repair adaptations that we can do, not only to lower our counter levels, widen the halls, as well as a whole wide variety of these different options that are available to us as well. So special needs family members assistance. So the first one we'll look at is for when you're dealing with child disability benefits. And this disability benefit is over and above your regular child tax credit that you would be receiving. This is an additional benefit that will come monthly to families who have a child who has a disability under the age of 18. And it will have a severe or prolonged impairment of either physical or mental issues. And then when that has been determined through the medical system that yes, this child has this or that and has been diagnosed with this or that, there's a wide variety of options for you there to go through that process and assessing. And then you may receive an additional $2,831 per year, or an additional $236 per month adjusted to your child tax credit that you're already getting, an additional level which will be for because your child also has an additional disability. Over and above that, we also have disability tax credit certificate. And this is where you would be going through your doctor, and they would be filling out specific requirements for your condition of the disability, whether you are a child with a disability, an adult with a disability, even if that adult is 18, 19 years old, but you as the parent are still caring for them, even though they've become an adult, these disability credit certificates are then there for that as well. There's also areas for when we're dealing with children. If this is a child of yours, you have registered disability savings plan that is not just for you to put money away for your child, but it also helps your family save for future expenses. So maybe, for example, you have a child who maybe is in a wheelchair, for example, but that wheelchair is only a certain size. They can't keep that chair. So yes, we have exchange programs, but sometimes there will be much more in-depth or more expensive future expenses around whatever the disability is. And so then there are disability saving plans. Those disability saving plans can also be used for future expenses, as well as if you wish to put money away to purchase a home for your child that would need to have care when they become an adult and need to be placed in another location away from you because they maybe don't feel like wanting to live with you at that time based on their level of disability. So these are also available, and there's a whole list of options that are there for you to tap into that to add additional funds for saving in those areas.
So Katrina, I have a question again.
Yep.
As it goes through. I know we have some caregivers that are in our age category who has some paralysis and is in rehab. So because in the future, they're obviously going to have to change their home because some of the modifications are not going to be accessible. Are they still able to use this registered disability savings plan as well?
If, depending on whatever their disability is or how they received it. So
Okay.
for example, if Lisa was in a major car accident and now she was T-boned and is now having complications with her hip, that would be covered under her accident insurance.
Right.
That would then fall into play.
Okay.
Or would this be because her bone deterioration is now happening?
I'm sorry, medic, could you please mute yourself?
I was here all the time.
Medic, hello. I can't mute you. If you could mute yourself, that would be wonderful. No,
I will continue on then.
Okay, this I can give you an example. This particular person has had a stroke and is now paralyzed on one side of their body.
Right. That's right. So even right now, they may be able to physically stand or not, but whatever their situation is, it could be becoming worse in the future. And so that's why when you have any type of disability, it is really beneficial for you to go through the process of applying for disability benefits. And you are able to do that through your doctor, as well as through different nonprofit organizations to assist you with options. So that's great that these programs are all there and out there, but what happens if you've applied and it was refused, and now what? Because many times, just like when you think about applying for a job, where I could say, well, you know, I wanted to go work with Lisa down in her office and I applied, but I didn't get the job, so I guess I'm just going to stay at home then. Well, that's not the way it works. And it's the same when you're looking at disability applications, because we need to relook over the application and apply numerous times based on how our situation has changed. And many times, just as I talked about earlier, where income tax is extremely complicated for us to try and figure out forms. And many times you and I, when we're filling out our regular income tax, this is not something that we are really up on. So we would take our forms and our receipts to someone who understands that process. And it is exactly the same when you're looking at applying for disability benefits. We have people in many of the nonprofit sectors that specialize in this for your specific disability. So for example, at Voices of Albertans with Disabilities, we have 2 counselors there that will walk you through the process of going and gathering the right information when you've had a refusal, for them to look over why it was refused and what was missing, what were the missing pieces, and how to put those missing pieces back together to not only apply for the provincial and federal level with what was actually needed, and how to line all that up. And same with different nonprofit organizations, for example, with the Edmonton Epilepsy Association. If you are dealing with a severe case of epilepsy, then we also have people there to deal with your specific condition of the epilepsy and how to apply for these areas as well. And so that's an example. Our federal government also has assistance links for us if we're dealing with our home, as you heard Lisa mention. What happens if our home accessibility is now in need of some change? Well, we have a couple of different options for us. So accessibility expenses can be claimed on income tax. And when you go into there, there are a variety of different options for you. So for example, if you had money and could go and pay some carpenter to do some big renovation, yes, you can claim that. But what happens if you don't have the money to go and do that? Then there are options that are available for you as well, to look at additional funds to help you provide those needs, which the government is also available to provide for you. And there is also revenue from the government if you are planning to buy a new home and put that home in place, but you need additional things to that home. Then there are claims that you can put in place that would be over and above what you normally would put into the expense of your home. Grants are there to assist you with funding needs. There's also one called Show Me the Green, which is for home improvement Canadian government grants for people with disabilities that are already homeowners, if you need to get some additional assistance, as well as modification programs that are available. Some of these programs are grants that you can get the funding directly for you to use, and others of them will be loans, all depending on what it is you're needing to do. And they all have a variety of lists of things that you can do for your home. So for example, if my house right now is in need of outside siding or whatever, and I'm going to have to do it anyways, but I want to adjust it for whatever I need, I can't just all of a sudden decide that I'm going to have the fanciest one in the block. Okay, it has to be relevant to your need based on your disability. So the grants for home accessibility also are available in different funding pots, depending on where the money covers for your particular need. So for example, if you are a person that is dealing with a disability, but you also live on a reserve, or you have Aboriginal descent, where you can access some of the funding and assistance from the reserves. There is a whole variety of renovation programs for rehabilitation for the housing on the reserves. Whether you yourself own the house on the reserve, or the reserve board and band owns the house property as a reserve funding, then that's also a program that's available. Or if you're renting a reserve home or renting an apartment and needing to have assistance. There is also Renovations, also assistance for affordable housing based on different developmental needs for you when you're on the reserve as well. And same with different types of suites that need to be developed. If you have a home on your reserve, but now for whatever reason you're going to need to bring your mom or your brother who has a disability due to their disability to come and live with you because you will now be the caregiver, then on the reserves they have additional funding for you then to expand those secondary suites for that to be available not only within the house. Also, if you wanted to think about if you had like a garden suite, like similar to a two-car garage, if you can think of it, outside of the home, where a second little home is being built as a secondary suite or garden suite development for your member of a family on the reserve that will need to be living there based on their assistance, then that is also available for you. There is also through CMHC assistance for departments for First Nation housing and specialty areas, especially if you're on a reserve where the housing may not be up to the standard that you need based on your specific disability. In some of the reserve housings, they may not be at that area, but then the government will come in to give the funding to make that assistance for you. And there's also additional forms there for you on all levels of that I've provided as well. If you're on, those are all for if you are on a native reserve and needing these assistance. So next I'm looking at home renovations and medical expense grants for majority of us. So when you think about grants, this is where you can have funding given to you by the government to use for a specific area or task, or also an expense that you can claim because you had a need. So for example, with these areas within the Government of Canada through Revenue Canada and your income tax, you can get assistance to put in or add to what you have in the house. For example, an air conditioner. You can have $1,000 of your air conditioner or 50% of the value of an air conditioner you've added to your home claimed, as well as a HEPA filter or air cleaning system and filter for your furnace or the furnace itself, because maybe you live with asthma or you have areas where this is a concern for your health, then these types of things can be claimed not only when you're going to purchase them for the home to do an upgrade, to get assistance with that upgrade, but also to claim it as a medical expense. So you would not only be claiming as a renovation for the disability or assistance, but also as a medical expense in two different areas on your income tax. This is also something that can be done not only for the furnace areas, but also for water filtration and purification systems. If you wish to put in a water purification system due to complications for the specific disability that you have. For example, if part of your disability has to do with your digestive system, and maybe many of the digestive system components are being impacted by that specific disability, then there are a lot of the water filtration programs that would then assist for getting the the toxins out of the water that might be interfering with this, as well as many of the other needs for better quality water based on your disability. bathroom aids to get in and out of the tub, or additional types of toilets that may need to be with risers or lowered based on the condition, as well as new walls and more room put into the toilet. Again, this is a renovation that it can be in place, but also it can be put in as a medical expense grant as well in both areas. A lift or aid for transportation up and down the stairs or in and out of the vehicles is also an expense that can be claimed for not only home renovation, but also a medical expense. Moving expenses. Moving expenses, a lot of people don't think of, but if you're having to move and you're not doing a big distance like from here to Toronto, but maybe you're moving from your home to the old age home and needing to go into geriatric care, or there's only palliative care offered in one facility at a specific distance away, then in these situations, the moving expenses would also be able to claim not only for the aspect of renovations, but also as a medical expense as part of your requirement for your health care. Premiums can also be claimed on your medical expenses for any paid private healthcare plans over and above the Alberta healthcare insurance plan. So maybe you have, for example, Sun Life or something else that you're paying into for coverage for some of the additional expenses you have. All of those premiums that you've been paying monthly on are able to be claimed under your medical expense claims and grants, as well as claimed on your income tax under medical expenses. If your home needs to have enlargement done at the halls or doorways to be able to get in or around the house now because you're in a wheelchair or whatever the issue is for you, then that enlargement and expansion of the different doorways and hallways is also then claimed not only in the renovation expenses, but also under medical expenses, because the renovations are happening due to a medical condition. Lowering of the cabinets, when you think of standing up in the kitchen and all the cabinets are up and above you, that's great if you can stand and reach them, but what happens if we're now in a wheelchair? Then those types of things are going to need to be changed. Same with bathroom areas. Also, as mentioned earlier, training expenses for any family members to take training on the specific caregiving procedures and methods of your specific condition. So for example, if you have a colostomy that needs to be done, or you have a specific issue with cystic fibrosis, or whatever the issue is, if your family members need to be trained in how to care for you, then this can be the training expenses that are not only free through the many different organizations, also if you need to go for specific training, that this would also be covered under your medical expenses. Along with what the Government of Canada offers through those programs, our employers, if you are employed and have a person at home that needs care, or your loved one or spouse needs renovations for the house or what have you, the employer's health care plan may cover some of the medically related caregiver expenses for you, for spousal benefits that you can claim on your health care plan through your employer. The Alberta government also offers seniors of low interest home equity loans. So if you need to do some repairs based on the needs of your medical condition, the government will also offer very minimal loans based on this to adapt and repair your home so that you can age in place and have those aging in place options. There is also not only the loan assistance for that, there is also grants for specific areas within those home adaptations available. We also have many different nonprofit organizations that also come in to assist along this area as well. For example, Easter Seals. Easter Seals provides the following mobility equipment when all other funding sources and options have been exhausted. So for example, let's say you've tapped into all of this, but you've spent your maximum amount, but you still need this or that, then these are areas where you could come into, let's say, your hospital bed or the lift or chairs or stairs, mobility scooters, power chairs, portable ramps, ceiling tracks for lifts in the house. These types of things. If the expense becomes over and above what the government is offered for you, then Easter Seals and other nonprofit organizations, there's many out there, will then come in to tap in so that you can get this for your handicapped child as well as for your spouse or the parent that you may be dealing with as well. Clothing, food, and basic needs, medical as well as recreational grants that are available out there. So the first one that you see there, this is a grant that is available across Canada as well as in the US. And this is if you need the basics right now. So this is very much like what Justin Trudeau is offering us right now with all of what's been going down with our situation in the present. But this is if you're in these types of situations and you have tapped into many different things and you're just not able to get what you need. So then in these cases, you can apply for a grant where you don't have to pay the funds back, it is given to you, but you would have to verify that need, whether that be need for clothing or food or basic needs to meet your requirements or medical needs. And there's a whole list of examples on that website of all different things that you can also be claimed through in there. Outside of those areas for different grants and government needs, there's also the Red Cross in the communities all across Canada. And the Red Cross has programs for health equipment that you can get on loans. So there are certain times where you might not need something permanently or only for a short period of time. For example, if you were in a car accident, you needed a wheelchair, but you don't need it for the rest of your life. Or maybe for some reason you had a specific type of equipment that you would need. The Red Cross would be there to assist you with those types of temporary loans for those types of equipment. And there's a whole wide variety of options there for you. Many of the different nonprofit organizations, for example, national disease illnesses or specific organizations based on your loved one that you're caring for's unique illness, those national organizations, as well as individual local branches of charities, have so in those organizations will have specific additional grants and also different programs to be able to provide some of those needs for you. And also individual local branches of charity service clubs have many programs to offer you additional benefits based on those unique needs. And even if it is not a unique need, for example, if you had epilepsy and you need to go to the Epilepsy Association, other organizations also have a whole wide variety of blanketing needs of any types of disability assistance. Food accessibility. Food security in Alberta is a big issue, especially as you see today. But along with all of the different types of things like your food banks, there are so many other opportunities for you to get assistance for food. And I mean like an enormous amount. And so these are things like not only your food banks, your food kitchens that are all throughout our community, our FCSS programs that also offer partnerships through many different churches as well. There's a variety of churches that have food kitchen programs. There is also programs where you can purchase into, and there's a whole list of them there for you, where it costs $5 a year for you to belong to an organization, whether it be for the Salvation Army or a whole whack of other different options, where they will purchase from large grocery suppliers or farms a large amount of food at a reduced price and then break it down into smaller amounts for you. So for example, a $10 to a $25 grocery fee that you might be coming to pick up at a certain time or place would then give you that ability to pay that amount of money, but receive an enormous amount of groceries that would not be able to be purchased if you went to the grocery store for that price. And so these programs are available for you for a whole variety of areas all throughout Alberta and in many different communities. We also have programs like the Food for Good program that is in the Edmonton area, and we also have summer programs down in Calgary as well. There's a whole wide variety that you can look up on the list there. And these types of programs are nonprofit organizations that are really wanting to really tap into the areas of a shortage. And I'm not sure if I sort of get out of this or not, because I would love to be able to
you may, if you're going to share a different screen, you may have to stop sharing this screen.
Yeah, that's okay. I can do that at another time. But all of these different organizations have amazing programs for you to not only go down and participate in a cooking program. For example, the Food for Good that's on there on the screen. They have a program for $3 to $5 for you to come down and join in a cooking program where you will have all of the organic foods and high quality foods all donated, and then you will have 2 different recipes that you work together with a partner or your caregiver and chop up and create these different recipes and cook them all together. And you must show up there with the ability to have containers to take home 2 different recipes of 8 adult servings of each of those recipes. And so then you will be going home with that for our $5 expense. And so these types of things really allow your government assistance funding to be stretched for you to be able to provide better quality nutrient foods into the home to care for your loved one. And it doesn't always have to be, you know, whatever the price is today in the grocery store as they're going up, as you see. Any questions there, Lisa, so far?
No, I was waiting for you to get to this point. You know what? We can open it up to our participants that are on here to see if there's any questions. So they may have to just unmute themselves before they ask the question, though.
Yeah, so while that's happening, I'll just say a couple of other things. There are many different programs. If you are also a caregiver for a member of the senior or whatever the age, whether that be middle age, that has been a member of the military, there is a lot of different options for you for not only services, but also programs available to you and additional financial benefits in all, not only caring for that person who has gone through military duty, whether that been recently with the people who have come off of service, or whether that be you're the senior that you're caring for that originally was in either World War II or the different military services prior to the need of his senior care. All of these things would then be available to you, not only for the care for them with their medical expenses, also their mental health issues, as well as mental health for you, the caregiver, or the children of the family, or the whole family environment based on caring for the best of the family. That is also available through the government as well.
Right, and I just want to mention, because being a military spouse, like Katrina is also a military spouse, and our ex, well, I guess he's a veteran and so are you.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to mention that I am also a peer support volunteer for OSIS. So a lot of our groups are facilitated the same way as OSIS, and I do have a number of resources within the OSIS community, VAC support, the MFRC and stuff that we can also utilize. But I also understand that it's super important for some military families to keep that identity separate from their work-related military life and now their veteran family life. And it's a nice space to be in at Caregivers Alberta, that I can actually support those military families, my military family, with the same care that they would get if they were my own personal family. So I think that's important to note and to share. But I don't see any questions so far, but I do have some comments.
Lisa,
yes.
I do have a question from the chat box.
Okay.
Someone is asking if there are any tips or resources to help caregivers during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yes, which I will switch to another whole thing for that as well.
Awesome.
So the first thing before I even do that is realizing that if you're dealing with situations where you normally would be going out to offer them community support, and that community support is no longer available to you because you're basically trapped in the home, is now looking at ways that you can use and do things within the home. There are a variety of things, not only computer, but also options that you can do yourself to not only care for yourself. Also, when you're all cooped up in the house, more tension's flying. Okay, because you're pushing each other's buttons, you're going to start, wanting to, give each other a knuckle sandwich as you get closer. And that's not just for the senior you're caring for or the children you're dealing with severe mental health disorders or ADHD or what have you, that you just feel that normally you could take them outside and let them go, where right now maybe that's not an option for you. So there's a whole wide variety of things for you to look at within the home as well. And how to access some of that.
So one of the things that I also wanted to mention, and that I've gotten some messages on my phone of people that have been talking, is we were wondering if you could actually send us the slides so we can email out to our group of 24 people, and that handout that we were going to send out, which I didn't get an opportunity to get because we've been having technical issues all day.
Yeah, no problem. I should be able to put some of that together for you and send that over there. So what I'll do right now, let's see if I'll switch off of this one and onto another one here.
Okay.
I'm not sure how to do that. So let's maybe I'm going to hit stop share.
Yep.
Okay.
Then you should be able to start share
again. Great. And so now I'm just going to go down again. And now I'm going to go on to, where's my start share? Okay. So this is the next one I want to go to. Start a slideshow. Back to here. Okay, now, okay, escape from that.
Well, we have another question while you're trying to.
Sure, go ahead.
So I have something on here that says, so I have a rare genetic condition that fluctuates from being almost normal to frequent hospitalizations.
Mm-hmm.
We make okay money, but we have to sacrifice a lot due to medical expenses such as gas, money, parking to multiple appointments. So I think they're wondering if they're funding. And ironically, you and I were just speaking about this particular thing earlier. And yes, you can actually save all your gas receipts and all of those expenses, and you can claim them.
As long as the distance that you write down when you're leaving the house, the distance that you've traveled, and keep all that total because it's for a medical reason. So for example, I don't drive because of my medical condition. And because I don't drive, if I need to go somewhere for a specific medical issue, I need to be transported. I don't fly. I have to be able to be getting there somewhere. And so then whether I'm dealing that on a cab by myself or whether I'm having somebody transport me, then those are things that can be dealt with.
Right. And then the next thing that is put up here is their kids have therapy in Edmonton, but not always well enough to drive them when they're sick. How can we find access services for them in Spruce Grove without having to pay hundreds of dollars?
So if you don't want to be paying a whole bunch of services, let me see.
So I know Drive Happiness would drive people, but they don't drive people unless they're over the age of 18. So that won't work. But driving Miss Daisy might be able to.
There's a variety of things. Also, depending on what you need, you can also, as you can see with what's going on now with all the medical crisis, majority of these appointments are also going virtually with all levels of doctors right now. And so depending if the person that you're going to see doesn't need to do a specific palpitation of the unique area, then you could look at doing something like that as well.
And I do know Wendy's errands normally would be able to assist in that aspect of things and actually bring your little people to their appointments and bring them back home for, and she's really reasonable in what she charges because she does do that sort of thing. However, during this particular time, they cannot. So her access is literally delivering groceries, buying groceries, delivering groceries, and there's specific procedures that she's now implemented, which we do have the video on our Facebook page from our conversation today. So
okay, so anything else before I continue on?
so they do have they do physically need to be there. They're doing play and EMDR therapy, so they would have to physically be there. The EMDR can actually be done virtually. I do know that because I do EMDR specifically for people in my personal business. So so that's is what I would suggest at this time, but we'll definitely look into it. Please reach out to us. The PCN network might be able to help you, but I do believe your PCN network is actually in St. Albert, but I will look into that more as well for you. So if you can message me, Carrie, that would be lovely at ladams@caregiversalberta.ca. Okay, I think we're good now, Katrina.
Okay then. So the next area I want to get into is our mental health. And especially when we're dealing with the crises that we're dealing with right now, many times those stress pianos, not only when we don't have things like this going down, but even as a caregiver, that stress is really building down on us. And it's not just the impact of the stress of you as a caregiver right now and all the things you're doing, but also the layers of what has happened to you over your life that then puts in how your body is reacting to that stress when it comes down. So for example, your brain, your healthy brain can be harmed and impacted by all kinds of layering of things that have happened in your life, not only because of corona issues and all of what's going down now. For example, a physical trauma, if you've been in a concussion from a car accident or you were thrown off your horse, maybe that happened to you last week, or maybe that happened to you when you were 6. But those types of things can also impact your brain health, not only to impact today. Emotional traumas that you're dealing with now when you're dealing with all of this stress, but also the history and the layering of emotional traumas throughout your life as well, and how that has impacted your brain health. Pharmaceutical impacts that you actually consume of all the different meds that you've been on over your life and also presently, and how that biochemistry has impacted the brain, and different types of nutrients of foods that can offset that we'll talk about. Nutritional imbalances. Nutritional imbalances impact your biochemistry to really cause different complications for your mood, anxiety levels, as well as brain health. And there are many different things that we can do to offset that, not only with issues of blood sugar and how, you know, if you think about your kids, if you've given right after Halloween and they've just eaten a whole whack of candy, you know very well that their moods are changing. But the same with blood sugars, whether it's dealing with diabetes or any other areas of blood sugar levels, it impacts our system, not only from the inflammation aspect of it, but also in our brain as well. Inflammation and oxidation of stress. The inflammation that we feel within our body, or the bloating effect that you feel within your body, can happen from stress or from your specific conditions or the person you're caring for's conditions. But all of those areas also can be impacted by the types of foods that we're eating and how that reacts within the body. Mental health imbalances, as you think about today with stresses that are going on and people turning on to the TV and hearing, you know, this is going on, that's going on, stress is building, anxiety is building, and also giving, maybe they've been laid off of their jobs, swirling the drain of depression, but now what? With all of these domino effects on top of that, we're also dealing with a caregiving role. And layers of not only all of that happening, but also the impacts of adverse childhood experiences that have happened from years ago that have really built the foundation of how your mental health and brain health works together. And all of these impacts really can be touched by our grocery cart and how we look at the foods that we do. And when we're thinking about our thoughts, they all have emotional and inflammational stimulation behind them with a gut-brain connection, and neuroscience is behind those. And many of our neurotransmitters that are connecting to our brain are actually provided through our digestive system. When you think about our pancreas, for example, 20 emotional areas of secretion are laden in peptides that work from these areas, are regularly stimulated by storage of nutrients. And these areas can be affecting our emotions from the processes of the impacts of our digestive system. So I'm just going to scroll quickly through some of the information that I have on some of the talks that I do normally as well. So when you're looking for inflammation, we all experience bloating and inflammation in our body, but when we're eating the wrong foods, this will also trigger the neurological inflammation within our brain and our mental impact from that neurological inflammation. Chronic immune activation in the brain negatively affects all of our cells and creates our free radicals and also our damage within the brain, leading to cognitive decline, brain fog that comes on, neurological conditions, dementia, Parkinson's, depression, autism, ADHD, and so many other neurological conditions are stimulated by the inflammation from the foods that we eat. The brain is unique immune system within its separate from our regular immune system, and that is our Galic cells immune system. And too much sugar, heavy metals, and blood stream inflammation all impacts our brain. And our blood-brain barrier has permeability that leaks through this and is porous. So chronic inflammation in the brain becomes chronic symptoms. And this isn't something like a heart attack where all of a sudden you had a heart attack tomorrow, but there was no symptoms prior. Of course there was. Biologically, all of the plaques were building inside. All different things were happening over years. You just didn't all of a sudden one day have a heart attack with no underlying symptoms. There were symptoms that were building up underneath. And it's the same when we look at our brain and our emotional responses. When we're dealing with food and inflammation, it triggers that brain fog, slowing of our cognitive process, unclear thoughts, changing in the brain function, and concussion or trauma after that's occurred. Fatigue, and really feeling that when you're wanting to think and really concentrate on something that you just can't, the mental aspect is just worn out. Difficulty performing mental tasks of reading, and this also then contributes to some of the depression, and it sort of cycles from there. Neural inflammation affects depression, and depression is kind of like arthritis in the brain. It reduces the ability to activate our frontal lobe. It causes mood regulation, controls our thoughts as well as our belief. And not just chemical imbalances will increase the brain, but all of this together builds up towards our impact of how our brain is really thinking. And then when you look outside today, as it's snowing here in the Edmonton area, I'm not sure where all of you are, but that also contributes to our seasonal affective disorders and winter blues that come on, and depression flows up or down based on these seasonal changes, and decreases, the levels can be decreased up and down based on the light impacts of our circadian rhythms. And this rhythm is controlled by various hormones, causing increase in sleeplessness or difficulty waking at night, increased inflammatory chemicals released within the body from the stresses that we're experiencing. And those suffering that have long levels of serotonin and neurotransmitters at lower levels will also be impacted, especially if you were a shift worker, or if you are staying up all night because you're caring for a loved one in wee hours of the night and you yourself are not getting the effective sleep that you are. Over my years when I worked in geriatric and palliative care, many of the times the spouse that was coming in to look after their loved one was the one that would have the heart attack, because they would be coming in not eating properly, not sleeping properly, sitting at that bedside and not caring for themselves. Rising and falling hormones are happening all the time, which also impacts our mood disorders for a variety of different reasons, causing us to be asleep and a whole wide variety of areas there. Signs and symptoms of a seasonal affective disorder that comes in the winter areas is more than just blah or cabin fever. This is increased cravings for carbs, sweets, appetite, weight gain, depressed feelings late in the fall and winter cycling, where it is not all year, but it's more so when we're cooped up in these areas. And even now, when we're dealing with this going on in our environment, it brings on that as well, because we are all cooped up. Difficulty concentrating, decreased interest in your work activities, increased fatigue, need for more sleep, excessive daytime sleepiness, increased feelings of sadness, hopelessness, irritability, and also anxiety building. And many times we're feeling lethargic, sluggish, and a lack of energy that comes all from this seasonal affective situations.
There was a question in the chat. Who is Dr. Amons?
Pardon me?
Who is Dr. Amons?
Dr. Amon is a specialist in psychology and brain health, and you can take programs available online for free to assist with some of the neurological areas. I was trained through Dr. Amon for some of the blood flow patterns. He's also the psychologist that worked with the neurology of the concussions through all of the football players in the U.S. with the complications of the impact of that. And I studied the brains for real impacts of brain from all different impacts on the brain of all sorts.
So he's the one who initially started to see the lesions that came from concussions then?
Yes, not only the concussions, also the blood flow patterns, and looking at the blood flow patterns and how blood is redirected based on that.
Awesome.
So with seasonal affective disorders, we need to look at improving choices. So get as much natural light as possible. Early in the morning is best, and open up the blinds and sit near a window. When you think about being cooped up in the house right now, don't sit down in the basement. Okay? Realize that it's still daylight out there, even if it's snowing. Let yourself sit there and open up those windows and let that light in. Physical activity in the morning is a win-win. And when we're cooped up in a situation like we are right now, you can still go outside. You can go outside and let the kids play in your backyard together, or if you were to do a walk right around the block. Those types of situations are fine as long as we're keeping our distance. But that's also a benefit for us. Try using light therapy or light boxes for full spectrum 10,000 lux. Cheapest place I find for this is at Costco, where you can order them or get them. They come regularly there. If we're dealing with antidepressant meds, understand the side effects of your meds. Many people I deal with for neurological nutrition have been on all different types of meds, but have never really understood the side effects and how to understand when side effects are happening to you. What is the reason that they're there? Is my level too low or too high? Is my body having a reaction? Is there different types of foods that are stimulating it? And it's really important to understand what types of things are happening to you when you think of intaking of food, which I will get into. When we're looking at cognitive therapy and talking and behavioral therapy, changing our mindset of our automatic negative thoughts and our ants that are invading our thought process. When many times when we're having all of these automatic negative thoughts that build up and build up and build up, many of these automatic negative thoughts really is where we have to say, is this factual today or not? Or am I letting it snowball into something else? And really allow yourself to see what that factual area is. And, you know, contact some friends and socialize with some warm fuzzies. Now, even when we're looking at doing things online in situations like what we're in today, then go ahead and chat with somebody virtually and have some of that as well. There's a list of variety of supplements that you can add in. Positive diet changes, avoid coffee. Coffee is not only a very high dehydrant for your system, it also causes temperature flush and fatigue as well. Ensure adequate complete proteins happening. Serotonin in our body needs protein to facilitate production. And when we're dealing with the mood transfers, these are types of things that we need. Vitamin D foods, so we've got all different varieties there. Dark green veggies, increasing our vitamin and minerals and our EFAs, which may be depleted by the mental health impacts. Turkey, chicken, salmon, all different amino acids that aid with tryptophan, which leaves the serotonin, alleviates the serotonin production. And omega-3s for our nervous system and aiding our neurotransmitters. So when we're looking at diet makes a positive impact, yes, but it also has to be the right foods equals more mental alertness and focus. When we're dealing with all levels of mental health, food is a big issue for us. Food calms our stress levels or makes it worse. It makes us feel more compassionate towards ourselves and others. Research has linked high stress in early life to increased rates of inflammation and disease later in life as adulthood. So when you're thinking about your kids, let's protect our kids' journey with the right foods that will offset them and their moods. Let's use our shopping cart to increase our mood and equip ourselves and our family with better brain health options. And when you think about choosing food, many of us enter our grocery store, we grab hold of a cart, we run out there and we're thinking breakfast, lunch, supper, snacks, and away we go. But we don't stop to think, what are the symptoms and the medical conditions of the people in the home? What are the types of foods that would make that worse and stimulate those symptoms more or make it better? And that's, I guess, where I would say that I come in is really doing those assessments on you to really look at what is better for you to put in place for these options.
And Katrina, would you not agree with me when it comes to sometimes when we have a feeling or a, what's the word that I'm looking for? It elapses me right now. A craving for something. So chocolate, for an example, you're actually needing a, not chocolate specifically, but you're needing another mineral or a vitamin, and there's actually something that you can fill it up with. Or salt.
Exactly. So that would be your magnesium shortages.
Right.
And many of the different foods that will be stripping the magnesium to cause that, to trigger those types of complications for you. And then we want to use some of those as well. So when we're looking at choosing foods, we also make sure that we're putting foods in place that are going to be protecting our brain and our nervous system, that's going to keep our cognition in focus, not only so that we're not thinking about heading the dementia direction ourselves, but we want to enjoy our retirement years and keep them in focus and have cognition in place. But also when you look down at your kids, when they're struggling to study and getting frustrated with all the tensions and whatever they're dealing with, they're having those same type of effects on the brain's absorption of nutrients and minerals as well. So we want to make sure that we are choosing foods that are going to not only keep our moods happy within the whole family, but also so that the brain is able to work its best at all age levels. Anti-inflammatory foods, there's a whole list of variety of ones there for you. Brain boosting foods, so turkey's loaded with tryptophan and amino acids requiring to produce serotonin, which is our feel-good hormone that calms us down and aids us to sleep, reducing our depression symptoms. Pumpkin seeds loaded with zinc that aids to stress reduction and balances our mood support and our immunity. Also great for a trail mix or a topper for you. All wonderful also for anyone dealing with severe acne. It's a great option for them to add into the diet to offset that. Parsley is a stress boosting herb. Swiss chard is rich in magnesium to smooth nerves and distress the body with more of any type of magnesium sources are that anti-stress mineral. So if you're super, super stressed, that's why we're craving that chocolate, because that's saying to me, when I eat this chocolate, I feel that release and the release of that stress piano I've been carrying all day. Well, that's why. When we're looking at mushrooms for psychological assistance and reducing of anxiety, asparagus balances our mood and supports our sleep cycles and calms our anxiety attacks as well. When we're looking at different types of foods, there are unique types of foods that also help with blood flow and movement of the oxygenation around the brain, which is pistachios. Retirement. When we're looking at our retirement, we want to reverse the aging process. We want to deal with antioxidants. One of the best foods for that is actually cloves. Many of us think about cloves, that's what we put in our ham, but not just in your ham. You can take cloves and put it into a pot and add it into some tea, or even just boil it, let it have the smell within the home, or also allowing it to be in different tea sources for yourself as well. A variety of good, and it's great to put into your water to let it infuse in the water. Inflammation, depression, and dementia. One of the great things for it is curried salmon with the turmeric areas, as well as the benefits of the salmon. Generic vulnerability with the beta amyloid plaque and Alzheimer's. If you have family that are all dealing with Alzheimer's and you're caring for all of them, you need to realize that this is genetic vulnerability. But just because we have a lot of things in our genes doesn't mean that you yourself are going to get them. The same way when you think about your home, our genetics is our electrical system within our home. But you and I are the ones that decide to go and turn those lights on or off. Even though the electrical panel is downstairs and all the wiring is through the house, we have control to turn it on or off. And so even though we have things in our genetic vulnerability, we can still choose to offset some of that. So sage is a great one for that. Head trauma, and when we're dealing with increased acetylcholine for memory, shrimp is a great food source there. Toxins, if you've got lots of liver complications, or you've been on a lot of different types of meds to really impact your liver, all areas of the greens of the brassica family can help with some of those liver functions. Mental health and antidepressants, and really needing that mood booster or PMS issues, saffron. And with saffron, many people say to me, well, Katrina, saffron is one of the highest expensive spices. Yes, but when you're looking at saffron, you only take, like 8 or so threads out of it. And the best way to use saffron is to take a cup of hot water, the way you would tea, and take 8 threads of that saffron, place it into the water, let it infuse all the way through the water. And as it's infusing throughout the water, the same way it would tea, it's opening up the ability for the saffron to get down to the cellular level. And as that's infused, you can then take that and pour it into your stir fry that you're making for the family, or into your rice cooker to infuse in there. And this is a way to really impact the mood of the family with antidepressants. So right now, when you think of all the crazy things that are going on right now and how stress is really going through the roof in your family, this is a way where you in your kitchen can use as a pharmacy within the foods that you're making for dinner to really impact some of these areas. Immunity and infections. So again, eggs is a great source to build our immunity up. With neurotransmitter hormones and testosterone, energy levels and motivation, and we're feeling that sort of falling down and the energy's gone, pomegranate is great for us there. With diabetes, high blood sugar, and overweight issues, one of the best sources for not only dealing with weight loss, blood sugar leveling, as well as mood stimulation is cinnamon. And with cinnamon, a lot of people say to me, well, how am I supposed to eat cinnamon? Well, one of the great things you can do is when you think about having a water bottle around the house or at work, take that water bottle and take a cinnamon stick, place it in the water bottle, and let it stay in there and fuse through the water, and drink that throughout the day. Also, when you're dealing with the powdered cinnamon, add it into more things, whether you're going to be making a great breakfast for yourself that is great high in protein, as well as aiding the diabetes and weight loss, is going to be chia seed. Chia seed has high protein, but it also, when it swells up, it has gelatinous area over the outside of it. And that gel then goes into your digestive system, assisting in pulling some of the toxins in, but also carrying the cinnamon with it through the digestive system to level out some of the blood sugar for you as well. Sleep and melatonin is a main sleep hormone. It also can be impacted by head injury. A great area for the assistance in that area for concentration is wild cherry juice that you can pick up. And so there's a whole variety of different foods that you can do in those areas there. But when you're looking at stuff like that, a lot of times people say to me, well, I just want something basic I can use right now. So when you're thinking about something basic that you can use right now, I want you to think about if you were to make, let's say, some sandwiches for the family for lunch, for example, and you were going to make, let's say, salmon sandwich. Well, instead of normally taking that salmon out of the can and putting it into a bowl with some mayonnaise and giving it a stir and the regular practice, substitute out all the mayonnaise. Don't use it. Instead, take an avocado and use an avocado, which has amazing brain benefits, and the oils that is needed. And between the oils of the avocado and the oils of the salmon blended together, you will then not only be able to give your brain an amazing food and a brain bite that it needs for that day to help with all of these areas. It's also an amazing power of an avocado. It's the highest nutrient value fruit with 26% at the daily value of more than 20 vitamins and minerals. It has 15 grams of the greatest fat. It has no cholesterol or sodium, has increased good cholesterol of 11%. It has more potassium than a banana and maintains your body and brain their main electrical gradients, not only across the brain, but also all the nervous system. So if you're someone who's dealing with MS or different complications with restless leg at night or things like this in the brain health area, whether you're dealing with anxiety, depression, MS, epilepsy, all different complications within the brain neurological system, then this is a great food for you. It'll also decrease your blood pressure, inflammation, lower the blood sugar spiking, aid with arthritis symptoms, and so many other benefits just from making this one little switch with the basics of a salmon sandwich. So when you're looking at science prevention for brain health foods, you know, a lot of people say to me, well, Katrina, if I'm going to go grocery shopping, what kinds of foods can I put in there that the kids are going to want to eat? Because, you know, I can't tell my kid, you know, chew on this or chew on that. It has to be something that they're going to enjoy. Well, one of the best things that I say to people is, especially on days when you're running the kids around and you're in the car or that type of thing, or even today when you're cooped up in the house and you're going to go get a few different things, a great thing to think about is organic baby food in the squeezable pouches. And you can even toss it into the freezer, let it freeze for a little bit and let the kids have it like a freezie. And you can have a variety of good quality vegetables and fruits blended together. And this is a great way to get those sources into the kids when they actually feel it like a treat. And you'd be surprised at how they absolutely love them. And even my son in university, he does the same thing. He'll take all the same stuff that I've taught him over the years with brain health food, and he'll take that in when he's cramming for exams and things like that. Instead of staying up late eating pizzas and you know, junk food that will impact the quality of their cognition and focus for exams, and really looking at the ability for their academia needs, using the brain health foods to really boost their potential. And so when you're looking at veggies, types of veggies could be like kale, broccoli, mixed greens, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, bell peppers, onions, alfalfa sprouts, microgreens, and all that kind of stuff. But then again, people say, well, my kids aren't going to eat that. So then what can I do? Well, one of the great things you can do to assist your kids is take something like colored peppers. Add a variety. Try to create a rainbow of things in there. So if you're chopping up some veggies, for example, to make like a veggie and dip plate, put a variety of different things there. If you have people in the home that also have problems with their vision or their eyes, whether they have prescriptions, or even yourself, if you're pulling up a piece of paper to read and all of a sudden you sort of have that go out of focus and you got to sort of put it back in focus for yourself, then many times people don't realize that every single day the fluid of your eye is washed out and washed in based on the nutrients of the food that you ate the previous day and how that affects the bloodstream. And that fluid in your eye is then affecting the rods and cones on the back of your eye, as well as the nervous system in the eye going back towards the brain. And that's why we're getting a lot of those areas. And so one of the great foods for that is orange pepper. Slice it up. Let the kids eat it with some dip. It's great for their eyes as well for yourself to really keep your eyes focused. Low glycemic foods, if you don't want that blood sugar spikes, then look for foods that the kids are going to like that are also going to be treats, but not super spiking like candy. So for example, have a variety of berries like blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, raspberries, cherries, different things you can do with lemons and slicing citrus and put it into your water. Let them have some variety of different options there. But these are things where you can bring it out. It doesn't have to all be fresh. It also can be frozen where you take some out and add it into, you know, cereal or oatmeal or things that you're making for them, or also have it in a bowl that they can also eat as well. Different types of fats. Fats are very important for you to be consuming on a regular basis. But when you're looking at fats, it's also important to look at the type. So olive oil, many people tell me, well, you know, I know olive oil is really good. Yes, it is, but olive oil is also impacted by heat. It has a very low flash point. So if you're using olive oil in a frying pan, it will be impacted and damaged by that heat. So olive oil is best to be used in salads, where an avocado oil is able to have a much higher flash point and stay in its beneficial state at those higher heats. Same if you're looking at snacks for the kids, if they're able to have nuts, a whole wide variety of nuts, whether it's almonds, walnuts, seeds of all kinds. Coconut oil, many people talk to me about, oh, well, coconut oil is good for you. Sometimes they say it's good, sometimes they say it's bad, and I'm confused on coconut oil. Well, the issue to remember with coconut oil is it all comes down to the solid and the liquid versions and the carbon chain. So what that means is when you think about a solid big tub of coconut oil that you get at Costco or Superstore or whatever, and it's a solid white coconut oil, many of those coconut oils have a 30 carbon chain that is all linked together. And that carbon chain needs to be broken up and processed by your liver. Where the medium chain triglyceride, smaller coconut oils are in the liquid state form, which are 6 to 8 carbons and can be processed directly into your bloodstream without having to go through the liver process. On top of that, it's also much better for the brain because it'll go directly into the bloodstream across the brain where the other will need to be processed. Also, many of the oils, when you think of the coconut oil that you see in these big tubs, if those tubs are clear and you can see through them and you can see that white coconut oil is impacted by light, whether it's in a clear container as a liquid or whether it is in a clear container as a solid. And that's when you're looking at many of the different oils that you have in the house that are in darker glass containers for light protection. And it's the same way when you're purchasing coconut oil, to be aware of that. Chia seed, like I mentioned, is an amazing benefit for you. If you're able to use that and keep that in, it does great stuff for the digestive system and getting that out, as well as having higher levels of protein in there for you. If you're a lover of chocolate, like I definitely am, and my family would tell you that, then use good quality chocolate and you know, have that 80% chocolate and be okay with it. Because even when you're having the higher grade chocolates, and some people say to me, yeah, I know, but there's no flavor. That's okay. You can get the ones with flavor, or you can make the flavors yourself by melting it down, adding additional blends of flavor into it that you like, and then recreating the chocolate bar as well, or the treat that you're going to make up for the kids. And with all different healthy proteins, especially if you're looking at fish, when you're going to choose fish, please be aware of the toxic loads of the fish. The larger the fish, the more fish it has eaten, and the longer the life, the larger the toxic load. There are many different areas out there for you to find out about the different qualities of fish and toxic loads on them. There's also something to be aware of when you're just going into the grocery store, for example. Let's say if we're looking at salmon. When you're going to purchase a fresh piece of salmon, be aware of the white lines that you see on it. Many times when you're seeing those white lines, that is the toxics that are built up into the fish. And many times you'll see that on more of the farmed fish than the wild fish as well. And there's also a great documentary that was put together by biologists in Canada. They're over on the Vancouver Island in regards to fish, because they were doing the major studying of the fish for the Canadian government of what was going into our food chain as for humans. And they were seeing different diseases that were coming up within the fish and putting up those red flags. Eventually, the government wanted to hush them, and they were quite upset because they wanted people to be aware that these things were happening. So these scientists put a documentary together for the Canadian people and put it out on the internet, and that is salmonconfidential.org, that you can go online and watch, so that you're aware when you are buying fish, what are the good and the bad. And when you're dealing with low income levels, it's not that you have to buy super expensive fish or everything organic. No, it's understanding that when you are choose based on your own symptoms or your family symptoms and make a healthier option. And it's not about choosing to throw everything away in your kitchen and only choose, just, kale or what have you. It's choosing to make one attainable step and one positive change at a time. And small little changes make amazing benefits for yourself and the family. And when you think about if you were to hold a brand new sheet of paper right out of your printer that you have there. So when you hold a brand new sheet of paper, it looks wonderful. But think about it as yourself. For every one of those impacts that you had in your emotions or traumas over your life, if you were to put a crumple into that paper and crumple it up with each different thing at different age levels, and even though eventually it becomes a crumpled up ball, that's who we are. But when you straighten that all out, the wrinkles are still there. You still don't get back to that perfect piece of paper. So the reality is many of us feel that swirling drain of depression because all of these things have happened to me, or I had the rug pulled out from underneath me because all of these things have happened. But it's really being realized to just feel that there are times when we will feel that we're stuck on Pain Island because of our disability or limitations or the things that we're having to deal with right now. And we're feeling stuck on that isolated island with a shark swimming around us. And this is not the island I was meant to be on. My life was supposed to be over there across the Atlantic on Pleasure Island. That was what I was supposed to have for my life. But now I'm stuck in this situation, dealing with these disabilities and all of these challenges in my life. But when we think that way, it's also realizing that when we look way across the Atlantic, it seems too unattainable. But when you take small steps that are attainable to move you one little step at a time, you can see how your life can positively change. And it is exactly the same way with not only looking at our mental focus and really giving ourselves some warm fuzzies, but also with our food. And so when you think about lessons learned over a period of time, really think about all the different things that you've learned. Many times people think about, making a vision board for themselves or things like this of all the pie in the sky things they want to do. But if you think from where you are today versus when you graduated high school or when you were a teenager, what has happened between now and then? When you look back, there was a lot of things that you did actually accomplish. Even though traumas and things have happened, there were all good things that occurred as well. Make a board of all of those good things that happened in your life. So when you get down in the depths of despair, when you're dealing with all of these tragedies that come our way, we can look at the things that we've overcome and accomplished. And then also look at the positive things that we want in our life to make another board, and one in between that really looks at what we're working on now with the issues we're dealing on now. For example, all of us are in isolation in our home. So if you're stuck in the house with your kids and your dog and everybody else all in there, how are you going to put out these fires of tensions that are building? What are you going to do for some options for yourself? Be willing to see the truth of your reflection of what's really going on, not only on the facts of what you see out there, but also on the mental impacts and automatic negative thoughts that you're playing around regularly in your mind. Write in a journal and write the truth of this reflection down. or use some music. Music is amazing to bring across and lift moods. If you're dealing as a caregiver with someone who has dementia or other types of neurological complications, please use music. And think of even the music that they might even have had at different times of their life, whether that was your wedding songs or different things that are important to them or their favorite songs. Music is the one area in the brain that is not affected by dementia and Alzheimer's. And so when you're putting that music in place, that's why when you go into the seniors' homes, everybody can sing the songs from back in the 30s. Why? Because it's not impacted. So if you really want to impact or link a memory for somebody, then use music. It's amazing. The same way that when you're down in the dumps and you put some music on and then you start singing because you know the song, you feel better. You feel better. And it's important to do those types of things for ourselves. Talk about your feelings to friends. You know, be with someone that you trust in days when you're feeling that, oh my gosh, you know, Katrina, you wouldn't understand the things I'm dealing with. Believe me, I probably would. And find someone to do that. Be willing to mine and stop and dig through the impacts of your own life. There were different layers, like an onion, of traumas that you've experienced that have brought you to where you are today. Even when you're dealing with the impacts of your parents or the impacts of your children or even your own life or your spouse, and all of these things that have occurred really impact your own mental health. And so be willing to look at, although these things have all happened to you, see that when you're mining through all the layers of this history, there's amazing gold nuggets of lessons learned and important moments that you can really look at growth for yourself. Watch some positive movies. Have a good laugh. You know, don't be choosing some movie that's going to make you cry continuously, but find something that's going to be warm, fuzzy, or just have a great crack out laugh for something funny, because that's what we need, just to have a good laugh and enjoy a movie together. Create a life where you're back in control again, because so many times we allow, and myself as well, swirling the drain of depression because of my own medical conditions, that I allow the condition to take over. I allowed that scarlet letter of my condition to be who I am, but I am not my condition, and neither are you or the person you're caring for. Underneath that, they are amazing people. And that's what we want to do, and create an amazing life for yourself with taking on each day with something you can do for yourself. You deserve those warm fuzzies. Make yourself a priority. When I was working in the nursing field doing 16 to 18-hour days and go, believe me, everything to do with my life was on the back burner. Even on my days off, I would be running around to deal with my kids and take them to activities or volunteering in my church or many other different programs. I still wasn't taking care of myself. And after having multiple car accidents, as with severe complications, as well as grand mal seizures and many other neurological complications that I ended up having with, eventually it got to the point where when I went into a full code and stopped breathing and all kinds of other complications, I sat back and I realized some days the money is not worth it. We have to sit back and take priority and look in the mirror and really realize that all this stuff we're doing and the stress we're under, we really need to take care of us, because you're the most important person, not only for yourself, but also if you're the caregiver in your family for the person that really needs it, or the kids or yourself, then you need to be really in good health. Believe me, so many times in my years in geriatrics, seeing the family member pass away from that stress of watching their loved one and the emotions of that, plus not taking care of themselves. And they end up passing away before the person in geriatric care.
And unfortunately, that's a significant statistic that happens all too frequently, and then we hear about at Caregivers Alberta. So our goal is really to put those tools in the toolbox, using the mindset techniques that we talk about and we do programs on, all for that purpose, to really make sure you take care of yourself. Because if you don't take care of you, you can't take care of anybody.
Absolutely. And when you're thinking about when we're dealing with any types of disabilities or restrictions on our life, there's a lot of diversity out there, but diversity is also about having a seat at the table of decisions. Inclusion is when you're having a voice to speak out about those concerns, and belonging is having a voice that is heard by others. So think about when you're dealing with all of these tensions, are you being heard? Is the stress you're dealing with being absorbed by yourself? Are you letting that be heard by the people who can make a change, even if that change is only right in your own home?
And this is one of the reasons too why we at Caregivers Alberta do the one-on-one supports in the group with our caregiver support community, because we want to make sure that you're being validated and you're being heard so that we can help you reduce that stressors. And that, it's very easy to do one-on-one sessions with me. You can email me at ladams@caregiversalberta.ca. We can schedule a time, and then we can start putting tools in that toolbox that may look different than some of the things you talked about, and it could look very similar to some of the things that we learned about this evening. Katrina?
Yeah. There's so many things you can do, believe me, dear, from doing brain games of all kinds, of warm, fuzzy, specific comments that are for caregivers, and how to really look for those words that are going to give you encouragement while you're doing it. And these types of things are available out there. You need to give yourself some warm, fuzzy time. It's important.
And you and I are such passionate people with regards to the mental health and the stigma that needs to be changed around mental health. And we're both advocates for that 100%. But I have to say, I am truly grateful to have you on tonight. I had been messaging with a couple of my colleagues who have been on the call tonight, and we're like, we would love to see this presentation even quarterly, because we know that so many.
And I only touched on the surface of some of the stuff right now.
Right.
Like when I'm doing lots of talks and I can tweak it towards unique areas of areas that you want to look at as well.
So, for the participants that are on here, we would love some feedback to see what you would like to learn more about. I know that the resources that you had on the first half is truly amazing. Because, we've had so many people who are like, oh, can they send us that in the whole handout, like a handout with it, and the PowerPoint as a PDF, that it's so informative, and they want that information. So I said that I would mention it to you again. So I am. I know my colleagues had also shared how much knowledge and information that they've learned, because not only we at Caregivers Alberta are employees of Caregivers Alberta per se, we're also caregivers, and we understand what that is like, and we understand the mental health that we go through as a caregiver. And Katrina, you and I have spoken before, and I truly believe that we don't ask to be a caregiver, we don't ask to be a care recipient, and that is trauma, and it's traumatic. So we need to learn how to work together to support each other, to really build up the tools and be able to empower others so that they have the ability to reduce the cortisol in their brains, and to stop that amygdala from, sending out all those chemicals, so that they can actually take control back of their lives. And the nutrition part definitely helps, but also the supports that you talked about earlier definitely helps as well. So I want to thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us tonight. I want to thank you for dealing with all our hiccups, and we got through it as well. I appreciate you. I am full of gratitude, and I look forward to doing this again in the next few months.
I would love to. And just for those of you that are still listening, so that you're aware, in what I do a variety of not just nutritional assessments, but also looking at deficiencies. If you were on different meds, what those side effects were for the medications, and what foods are better for offsetting that. How heavy is the stress piano you're carrying? And how has that stress piano really impacted your health? And really understanding, how are we going to lighten that load? And what types of things can we do to reset our life? And for me, I learned the hard way. 3 other nurses in my 4 passed away, and I survived. But I also hit a serious bunch of brick walls to have to learn that lesson. and I don't want you to be hitting those serious brick walls. I want to give you the actual tools to really make an impact in your health journey, as well as the ones you're caring for.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much. We will be in contact soon. As soon as I get that stuff from you, we will email it out to all our participants, because I know that there is a couple on there who I spend a lot of time with through the caregiver support community and one-on-one sessions that will be waiting impatiently for it, because there was so much information there that they can utilize right away, which is lovely.
Oh,
so,
yeah. And my only, honestly, I'm so sorry. I wish I had the crystal ball to tell you what Justin's going to be putting down the pipe for all the additional benefits, because I would have played all that on there as well. But I guess we'll all have to just wait and see how that goes.
Right? What does it say here? There's just something up. This was wonderful, as I've never gone to a conference in the evening, as I do not drive in the evening at all. So this is a workshop that we do. We do education sessions multiple times in a month. We are looking at in April actually having at least four different education sessions. We're just in the process of making sure that the people who we've been in connection with can actually fulfill that. But we're also doing a lot of different Facebook Lives. So for an example, today, if you've been on our Facebook page, you may have noticed that we spoke with Wendy Moyle from Wendy's Errands. And she talked about the safety protocol that she's implemented for her business and for her team. And she is not only providing an essential service at this point, she is also a caregiver who just a few months ago was struggling just the same as some of the caregivers that we see on here on a daily basis. So know that the resources is out there. We want to help you as best we can, but we can't help you unless you reach out for help. And I know it can be extremely difficult to do, but it can change your life in a positive way. I would hope that some of the people that are on here might want to come and even talk as a caregiver, because I want to do Facebook Lives with caregivers to understand what the struggles have been since COVID-19 virus has come out, because you won't be the only one who's going through this difficult time, and you sharing your challenges and what's working for you and what's not working for you can actually help to support and reduce the mental health on somebody else that might be listening. So you can have extremely significant impact just by sharing your journey specifically. And everybody's journey is different, but everybody's journey is slightly the same. That's one of the key things that I find with our caregiver support communities, is that we all have different journeys. Our illnesses and disabilities of our care recipients can look extremely different. However, we all go through some of the same emotions. We go through some of the same mental health, the anxiety, the depression, the anger, the triggers, because it is, again, a mental health, a traumatic event that has happened. And now we want to help put those tools in your toolbox to change what is happening. So again, Katrina.
Yeah, absolutely. And we understand, my son is in lockup. He's down at King's University in his room. He's been locked up now for quite a while because they had students coming from North Korea and a bunch of other complications. But I mean, it's worrisome, right? And it's the same, we're dealing with seniors in our family that are in other parts of the BC that are, dealing with complications as well. And all of us are being affected by this. And Absolutely. So realize it's not just you. We're all going through this, and we're all here for each other. And as Lisa said, we are all caregivers, and we were all broken, swirling the drain of depression, and eventually had to learn to carry ourselves out of it. And both Lisa and I have been on that journey, and maybe we're just further along the path, but we're there to hold a hand down to say, you know what, we're here for you.
And you can get through this too. And
Absolutely.
I think that's super important, because a lot of times we think it's only me, nobody else is going through this. How am I going to get through this? But in actual fact, everything that you're feeling, I would presume and say, I don't know 100% because I can't say what other people think, but it's very likely that another caregiver is going through the exact same thing, and it's not a small percentage, it's a significant percentage. And I did actually talk to a caregiver this afternoon who called me, who you could tell was a very strong person. He was male, and he's looking after his wife who has dementia. And he was crying in an electrical room because he felt guilty about talking about what was happening with him, because he felt bad that he was talking about his wife, but he was at his wit's end and he just needed some tools. So we talked about some tools. I emailed him some breathing techniques, suggested some of our caregiver support communities, which is happening through this COVID-19 virus, is happening 2 times a week. It's going to be happening on Mondays and Thursdays, except for the first week of the month, because we actually work with Senior Centers Without Walls, and we actually facilitate for them for their peer group. So that's where we do that. So please know you can reach out to us no matter what. Call us. My phone number is 587-415-9002. Leave a message and I will return it as soon as possible. I am working from home. That is my direct work line, but the voicemail comes to me automatically. I listen to it and I call you right back. So that's some of the precautions that we have taken at Caregivers Alberta to make sure our families stay safe. And I hope that your family stays safe, and your family, Katrina. And I look forward to talking to you extremely soon.
Yeah, and for all of you, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. It's Katrina, Katrina, at healthybrain.ca.
And when we get the information from you, we will make sure all your contact information is a part of that email as well, with your website, your email address, your phone number, and all that stuff, just so that they can also communicate with you as need be. But you and I have had some really cool talks with regards to shopping at the grocery store and putting things in your shopping cart that can benefit. So it's been really, really amazing just getting to know you and how we can really passionately move forward together to make impact to change mental health and caregivers.
And an important thing to realize as older ladies, like all of us are, is one of the worst foods for dealing with your mental health and hormones after the age of 40 and beyond, as you're going the menopausal direction and many other mood swings with hormone changes. One of the worst foods to be consuming is raw spinach salad.
Oh,
it sounds healthy, but spinach raw is very harmful to women. Better option for you if you're going to be consuming spinach after these ages is to lightly steam it, either in a stir fry or lightly steam it before you put it into your blender to add to your smoothie.
Interesting. That is something I did not know. So that's wonderful. Again, I want to thank you so much.
Yeah.
And we will send out that information once Katrina has an opportunity to get her computer working enough to send it to us. And thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.